Hello and welcome to Neck Radio, and this is the Moonilisha Show. My name is Muna Ezodo. Today, I am joined by Toronto-based business owner and Loctician, Shala Fletcher. You're welcome to the show, Shala.
Thank you for having me. It's my pleasure.
Good to have you on the show. Great. So today, we are going to be discussing the lock business and its demands. Hope you're excited.
I've never spoken about this with anyone, so I'm actually excited to share whatever information I can provide.
All right. Yeah. So Shella has been a loctician for over 10 years, and she's the owner of Dominion Locs, of which she has been able to run the business for 3 years now, and I'm still counting. And her business is based in Toronto. So she specializes in different types of locks, which we're going to find out today. And we're going to get to know more about her and about the business of locks through her perspective. You're welcome once again, Shella.
Thank you.
All right. So what inspired you to go into locks? Why locks?
So the thing is, I remember when I mentioned that I've been in the business for 10 years, it's not it's not a cut straight, path, because those prior years outside of the past 3 years, I was only doing maintenance for friends. So technically, I have all that experience just doing maintenance. It's just in the past 3 years that I've been doing other things such as instant locks, repairs, extensions, stuff like that.
Oh, so why did you decide to go into locks, starting from the point of maintaining it for friends?
Okay, so at that point, I did it for friends because I had partners who had locks. So just to save money, I kind of started twinkering and tinkering here and there and, just getting stuff done. But in the past 3 years, the main reason I actually decided to start a business where I actually take it seriously and want to do it as a profession is due to the pandemic. So it's really the pandemic why I got into it seriously.
I like that. Yeah. So COVID-19 brought something good your way then.
Exactly. So for some people, they can say the pandemic was bad, but for me, it actually opened this door for me where on my regular job, my hours got cut. So I had not much to do. And my daughter was like, well, why don't you, do some lock maintenance? And why don't you start an Instagram page? So that's exactly what I did. I started an Instagram page. I started doing maintenance. I realized that a lot of these people needed repairs. So I started doing that. And then from there, I started learning about instant locks and I started doing it. I just started doing it. And now it's like I built the website and everything's just getting out of hand.
It's all been falling in place. I guess I would say something that started off as an experiment and as a hobby led you to this great business now.
Yes. And very good.
Good. Some people are wondering, they would be like, what or who is a loctician? So yes, that's the question for you now. Who is a loctician? Like, on what grounds would you refer to someone as a loctician?
Well, speaking from my own perspective, I would say I haven't studied the business of being a loctician necessarily. I've just been winging it. So from my perspective, I would say a person who is a loctician is a person who takes care of people's dreadlocks. And I use the term dreadlocks and I use the term locks interchangeably. So if you hear me say dreadlocks, locks is the same thing. So it's just somebody who takes care of in terms of they start it, they maintain it, they repair it, and they have knowledge of, the process or the journey, the lock journey, and they're able to help you along.
All right. So what's your favorite thing about being a loctician? Like your experience so far, what would you say has been the most exciting or the most thrilling part of your business being a loctician?
I have to say it's the reaction of my clients, especially after they get instant locks with extensions. And they're instantly transformed from being one thing to being this whole new person with a whole new, journey that has matured from 0 to 100, and they're like so amazed and, you know, very pleased. So that for me, it's very fulfilling to see their happiness and to see their satisfaction to I was able to help them get to that.
Interesting. That is so nice. Like
Yeah.
I can imagine total transformation from 1 all the way to 100.
0 to 100 in one day.
So what types of locks are you most familiar with? What's your area of specialization in terms of locks? As you use them interchangeably, dreadlocks and then the locks, what kind of locks do you specialize in?
So I specialize mainly in doing instant locks and instant locks with extensions.
Okay.
I still do maintenance and I still do repairs, but I think my main area, or what I'm most known for, is the instant locks and instant locks with extensions.
Okay, so what's the difference between instant locks and dreadlocks?
So instant locks, it's dreadlocks. However, instant locks, you get it done instantly. So your hair, your free hair is instantly turned into mature looking locks in no time, like on the same day, rather than going through the lock journey of doing coils or doing 2-strand twist or doing anything like that. There's a special tool, crochet needle, that you use to instantly lock the hair together to make it look like it's been matured. Or say you have 10 inches of loose hair, then you're like maybe 8 inches of instant locks looking like you've had it for 8 years or whatever.
Oh, that is interesting. So that's pretty interesting. So is it like the wick locks?
Wick?
Yeah.
So wicks, in my to my understanding, based on what I do, are those locks that are about this thick in diameter.
Yeah.
Yeah. It can be instantly done too, or you can also grow those from scratch just like you did yours. So wicks can be instant or they can be cultured over years.
That is nice. Like, this is really good to know. So like someone could just walk in with loose hair and leave your salon with locks that look like he or she has grown them for years.
Yeah. 20 inches.
This is good. And even if they wanted extensions, you could just put the extensions and then it's longer than what they want it to be.
Exactly.
Interesting.
It's very interesting work. I never get bored.
I know, like, it sounds like it's really interesting. It does sound really interesting. So where did you learn these from? You know, because you've told me your inspiration, what inspired you to go into it. So where did you learn it from?
Okay, so that's been a question that I get asked a lot because it's only been 3 years and I'm doing all this. And from the work, a lot of people are like, 3 years, I don't believe you kind of thing. But it's something that came naturally to me after I saw the process once. It's like, okay, I can do this. And I just did it. And the first time I saw the process was with Chris McDread. He's on YouTube. He's very big he's a loctician in the US and he's very big in the business. So I watched his video once and that was it. I'm like, okay, so I just use a crochet needle and naturally I knew how to use a crochet needle in real life using thread. So I'm like, okay, so you just tangle the hair with a crochet needle and that's it. So I did and it worked. So I'm like, okay, I'll do it.
This is inborn. Maybe like your mom or your grandma was so good with hairs, right?
No, it was nothing like that. It was just me knowing how to crochet naturally and understanding now that there's a method to crochet hair instead of crocheting thread. So it wasn't, just came naturally in that way.
So this is good. Like,
yeah,
impressive. This is so impressive. You know, I learned that some people in Florida started off this week locks, and week locks has been like a celebrity thing.
Yeah.
So a lot of musicians want the week locks. That's the instant locks. A good number of them want it, and we do know a lot of musicians in the US who are in Hollywood and have these instant locks. So I'm wondering, how is the business of locks in Toronto? Do you have a way to compare it with maybe California, or if you wanted to look at it at Atlanta, Georgia, or maybe in New York? So what would you compare the business of Locs in Toronto and the business of Locs in a particular city in the US? How would you compare it in terms of the demand?
Yeah, there isn't a very good comparison, I should say. Like the demand versus the availability of locticians who are able to do instant locks or to do wicks. In Toronto, there's a demand, but it's not as great as in those cities in the US. However, in Toronto, there's not a lot of people who do it, but in the US, there are a lot of people who do it. But here in Toronto, there aren't a lot of people who do it. So even though the demand is low, the supply is also low, the supply of lactation.
Oh.
So it works out. So there's
so
no
it balances out.
Yeah, it balances out. Versus in the US, there is a high demand of locticians and there is a high demand of people who want to get instant locks or whips. Yeah.
Well, that's interesting because one would think that because Toronto is as mixed as you can imagine, like you have people from different parts of the world.
Oh, yes.
One would imagine that the demand would be really high, you know?
Well, the thing is, it is high, but if you're speaking of wigs in particular, then it's not. But for dreadlocks on a whole or locks on a whole, yes, the demand is high, and there are a lot of people who do maintenance, which is what the demand is highest for.
Oh.
Right. There's a lot of locks already, but not a whole lot of people is gonna get up every day and say, oh, I want to start locks today, or I want to get instant locks today. Most people who are looking for a loctician already have locks. And then there are those people who are looking for a loctician that don't have locks, but they want instant locks. And that's where I benefit from the business, because I'm one of the few people who actually does this process of instant locks in Toronto.
Exactly. So do you think it has to do with their conception about locks? Like maybe people see locks in a certain way, and that's why it's not in so much of a high demand for those who just want to start locks overnight. Like people who just want to wake up from sleep and say, okay, today I'm going to go out to lock my hair. Is there like a conception about it? Do people tend to regard people with locks a certain way, and that discourages others from wanting to have it overnight?
I wouldn't say there's any kind of discouragement in this day and age. Things have changed over the years. I mean, when I was younger and hear about people with locks, you would think about like a Bob Marley or a Bongo Natty from Jamaica somewhere or something like that. It was looked down on back then, but today it's very well accepted. There's really no drawbacks to people getting locks that I can think of.
Interesting. So how do you stay up to date with trends? You know, different lock trends. How are you able to stay up to date with them?
Well, that's the thing. The trend right now is to get instant locks. So
Exactly.
I'm at the top of that game. So there's really nothing that I would say that I don't do a lot of maintenance because I'm busy doing repairs or I'm busy doing instant locks because I make the locks myself as well. So that takes up a lot of my time just making them. So in terms of trends, I would think about styling, you know, different hairstyles and stuff. Since I don't do a lot of maintenance, I don't dwell on that part of the business.
Okay, yeah. So if someone walks into your salon today and he has just loose hair, would you rather recommend he goes for dreadlocks or he goes for wigs? Because some people don't know what they want. All they know is they want to lock their hair. So they don't know what exactly they want to do. So which would you rather recommend for one, and why?
Well, here's the thing. Most people who come and say they want locks, they already know what they want. They know exactly what they want. They've seen a sample photo, because a lot of the times I usually say to them, send me a sample photo of what you want your locks to look like after we're done. And they'll send me a sample photo and then I'll decide, okay, so you want instant locks, you don't want extensions, or you want instant locks and you also want extensions added. And then I will go based on what they tell me they like. So if they tell me they like a particular look and they've provided me with a sample of that look, then I go based on that. So they usually know exactly what they want.
Okay, so when they go for what they want, do they check like to see if it's a trend, or they just do it at the moment and maybe after some months they call you and they say, I feel like I need to change my locks. Do you get customers like that? Maybe they feel like they need to change it from one type of lock to the other, or they want to take their locks down, or they want to just change something about it. Do you have customers like that?
Yeah, I've had customers who get the locks, and then after a while they realize maybe it's not for them and they may want to take it out, but that rarely ever happens. I've had one customer who got the locks and took it out the same day.
Really?
I'm not, yes.
Why?
So they started out by purchasing the lock themselves without getting any kind of guidance from me.
Yeah.
So, and online, I just bought some locks. They don't ask questions. They just bought it because they want locks. They didn't realize they needed to have a certain size if you want to have a certain fullness. So for instance, your lock to part ratio has to be on point. You can skinny, instant locks and then adding a fat lock extension to that. So if you want to have a particular size lock, you have to understand that you have to buy a certain number of a certain size lock.
Exactly.
So he bought larger locks than what he wanted. But then when I looked at his sample picture after the fact, he actually wanted micro locks, but he went and got large locks.
Oh my goodness. No, he did it to himself though.
Yeah.
He did it to himself.
No, and he didn't blame me. He understood after explaining to him that, listen, so if you wanted that, you should have bought this. But he told me I already installed it for him. And then he's looking at it in the mirror and he's like, oh, I thought I was going to have like 100 locks. But I'm like, if you want 100 locks, you have to get small locks.
Exactly.
You can't have big locks. Otherwise, you're going to have little tiny roots and fat locks hanging off it, right?
Exactly. But how did you feel about it? Did you feel like your handwork was being taken down? Like, that effort, you put in some effort to do something and someone takes it down. How did you feel about it?
You know what? It's always what the customer wants. You have to do what you can to help them, to please them, to ensure they get exactly what they want. If this is not what they want, then that's not what they want. You can't do much about it. And yes, your handiwork is going down the drain because you spent all that effort, that energy, and that time. But at the same time, they still pay for the work because they're also losing money.
Exactly.
In the process. So it was his mistake. He still paid me, and he paid me to take it down as well. At the end of the day, I lost time, but I still earned, on the work that I did. Yeah. I just felt bad for him having to go through all that. Yeah, to then come to the decision that, it's something else they wanted.
Exactly. I know. It's really sad though, but it's all good. Those kind of things happen. So do you work with other locticians? What's your relationship with other locticians in Toronto?
Like I said, I just started 3 years now, and it was during the pandemic. So there hasn't been any time to really do networking. So I haven't networked a lot with locticians, but I do know a few. I do refer clients to a few of them because I don't do sister locks. I don't maintain them. I don't start them. So whenever somebody comes to me, I usually refer them to somebody I met on Instagram or something like that.
Interesting. That's good to know. At large, you have had a great time being a loctician. It's been really interesting for you. And listening to your story has been so inspiring too, because who would have thought that someone just from the blues developed a talent which has now become a business for her in the world of locks? Like, this is rare. It doesn't usually happen. So I like that. I'm so impressed about that.
Yeah, it doesn't always that way, but sometimes you never know until you try something, right? And then you're really good at it, and then you're like, why did I waste 10 years of my life doing something else?
Exactly. Thank you so much, Shella. And yes, Shella is a loctician and she's the owner of Dominion Locs in Toronto. She has been into the business of locks for 3 years, practically as a business owner, but she has been locking hairs for over 10 years now. So she's been skilled in locking for over 10 years. And you can follow Dominion Locs on Instagram at Dominion Locs, and her website is www.dominionlocs.ca. And you can see for yourself, you can actually see what I saw that triggered me to reach out to her because she's so impressive. She's good at what she does. Yes. So thank you so much for joining us today, Shella, to discuss the business of locks and its demands.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. It was my pleasure talking to you.
Thank you so much. Hope we're going to do this next time. And one of these days, I'm going to come down to visit your salon.
Yeah, sure. Just let me know.
I will.
Okay, Ramona, it was
All
nice
right.
talking.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.
All right. Thank you, Shella. Bye. All right. So thank you guys for watching. And I hope you learned a lot from Shella. I hope you're also inspired by her. And if you are planning to have locks, here's your link. This is your plug. And if you want to know more about Locs, yeah, stay tuned. And this is Monalicious Locs, and this is the Monalicious Show on Neck Radio. Stay tuned, stay safe, and be good. So take good care of yourself until we meet next time in the next video. I love you guys, and stay beautiful. Bye.